All right. Welcome back to the TheDNazChannel. And today we are getting into the Native American mounds, the ancient mounds of America, right here, right? Specifically the mounds in Indiana, is what we're going to be talking about. But a lot of people just don't even know about our own history and about what a lot of the explorers found in the early days of exploring America, you know? I mean, you're talking like what, 14, something, 1500s, right? So there was a lot of castles on these maps. And there were giant mounds that where you're gonna see. The Native American cultures here were huge. They were ginormous. So it's we're told that all these people lived like, you know, in stick huts, and it just wasn't like that. There were travelers, and there were, I mean, these people were very, very intelligent and widespread, all different types of, people. So, yeah, so that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to go to the mountains of Indiana, right? So, in 1939, Glenn Black, an archaeologist, he founded the mounds of Indiana and dating them back to 1000 AD, right? So they found a collection of 2.5 million artifacts. That's insane, right? But I know when they count artifacts, they count like every little piece, you know what I mean? So understandably, you can't, but still, a lot of artifacts found, right? So they were known as like the Mississippian Age. This is the Mississippian Age from 800 to 1600 AD, right? So like the Little Ice Age period, all right? They lived in satellite villages, right? Like in small, like they were like small settlements, and there'd be a main village, and they'd be on the outskirts of the main village. There'd be like little settlements, outskirts. So one of the villages was called Cahokia. Cahokia is the most well-known site. It's 4,000 acres. Okay, 4,000 acres, and there's 120 earth mounds. All right, so the size of Cahokia, the city, is 4,000 acres. 120 mounds. So we're not talking about, oh, there's just like a mound or two like that look like pyramid structures, right? No, I mean hundreds and hundreds of mounds were here in America. There's a lot of history that we just weren't told, right? So they probably had about like, I don't know, 20,000 people living in this area, and they were maize culture. So they were organized in a chiefdom system, right? So, which I think it's a different type. Yeah, it causes a lot of warfare when you have a chiefdom, a bunch of different chiefdoms. It can cause warfare, but that doesn't mean it's not a good way to go about things, because you have more, you have a broader spectrum of personalities and leaderships, different types of leadership coming from all around, learning from each other. So, it is an effective way, right? So the construction of the city of Cahokia was said to move like 55 million cubic feet of earth, which is crazy, right? And it was said that they were moved by woven baskets. So imagine 55 million cubic feet of earth moved by woven baskets, okay? Right? Think how many people that takes to do this, right? So they had like connected pathways and courtyards, It was like a city. It was a city. And the largest mound that was there, it's called Monk's Mound. It's towering over the town of Collinville, Illinois, right? And it's built in a series of like platforms and layers of earth reaching a top. It's a pyramid structure, right? And they were said to be used for rituals or ceremonies. But really, that's what archaeologists say. They say if they don't know what the hell it was used for, ceremonies. That's just how it is. So they had competitive games there. Okay, and one of them in Cahokia was called Chunky. It was like a stick and hoop game, right? They would throw spears at the same place at stone discs. Okay, but the game involved a lot of running. Okay, that covered over 50 acres. All right, 50 fuck. When's the last time you ran 50 fucking acres? 50 acres. Like they would use this. This game was said, it'd be like an all day thing. You know what I mean? That's 50 acres. Go run that. Go run that tomorrow and tell me how you feel. See if you can make it through there, right? These type of humans, they were built different. That they used to run down horses. So think about trying to catch a horse. Think about running down a horse. You know what I mean? How fast you have to be, how light on your feet. Yeah, they had different methods, chasing them down, but still, man, like to be able to run like that, fuck, man, fuck a football field, 50 acres. So, anyway, there was a Native American known as Big Hawk Chief. He was known to run a mile in 3 minutes and 58 seconds. I forgot. So think about that. And they're running barefoot, fucking barefoot, all right? So the stuff that the culture left behind was the Mississippian stone statuary, right? They're like human figurines, and they were made of like flint and clay, right? Flint was a very common stone used by Native American, by all people, back in the day, because it's easy to, it's easy to work with and make into knives. You can make it very sharp, you know what I mean? It's good for scalping, and, the more scalps you have, less problems you have, So, they also had a lot of shell art. You would see a lot of shells in the middle of Illinois. You'd see mounds of shells, right? It's like, so where you got to think of how well traveled these people were. I mean, a lot of shells in the middle, right here in the middle, and so that has to come from either coast, right? Because where are they getting shells? They're in Illinois, So these people were very widespread. It was all over. They had a system, And like we said, there were 2.6 million artifacts found. So we're talking a lot of artifacts, okay? And then not to mention the trade system, you know what I mean? Like, they had a full trade system. Think of when the Wild West days, right? And you can look back videos of, I can't remember his name, but using American Sign Language, like the Midwest Sign Language, right? And there's videos of them doing it. Like, that's how they would get around. They already had, the Native Americans taught, they're the reason why our sign language is so good for our deaf kids and all that. They're the ones that taught that in the schools, because when they got all taken into boarding schools, they all knew this sign language because it was just something, it was how they got around. That's how they survived. You know what I mean? So they really improved our sign language, and Native American Sign Language is way easier than the sign language that we came up with. So it's what most people use, like the basis of it. Anyway, we're going back. So the Paleo Indians, the first people who came around here was like 18,000 years ago. So it'd be like 16,000 BCE, okay? So they had larger animals back then. They were hunting like mammoths. You could see that. We can see what they're hunting. But then you see something changes, where they start going into smaller type of hunting, So they start hunting. This is like called the woodland period, I think. And so it's when they start hunting like deer, elk, moose. It's what we consider big game was their small. They were downsizing, So this led to a lot of different type of eating, different type of diet. How they moved, how they migrated, how they went to different places. Like followed the buffalo, whatever. So it didn't take long for these people. These people were on the rise. They were on the rise. And think about if like we left them alone for maybe another 50, 100 years, what would have happened? Like this culture was it was there. And they have some of the best ideology. They care about the planet. They care about the earth. You know what I mean? It's not like just because they didn't do the same type. Just because we think our technology is the best type of technology doesn't mean that. There's all types of technology, and that's what people need to start learning. Right? So, the Mound Builders of America is all over. It's not just there. There's some in Arkansas. You can look up all the LiDAR scans. We have LiDAR scans. The Arkansas ones are like 3,500 years ago, or 3,500 BC. So, like, you just have to look at, they were all over America. It wasn't just there. These are just, but like, think of Serpent's Mound. These are the same people, right? Everybody knows the Serpent's Mound, but nobody really knows the story behind how big, where that came from or anything. You know what I mean? So Start thinking about the history in America. Start thinking about where we could be, how we can advance, how we can improve our world, and, you know, what comes next. You've been watching the DNaz channel, and like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.